My mother-in-law's voice cut through the phone like a knife. I'm taking Ethan to Ohio next week and you can't stop me. I nearly dropped the dish I was washing, the suds sliding down my trembling hands as her words sank in, cold and sharp, like a betrayal I should have seen coming. I stood frozen in my kitchen, the hum of the fridge deafening in the silence that followed. Ethan, my 5-year-old, was upstairs, oblivious, stacking Legos into a wobbly tower he'd proudly show me later. The thought of him being whisked away without my consent, without even a conversation, made my chest tighten. Linda, my mother-in-law, had always been controlling, but this was war. 3 years ago, when I married Tom, I thought I'd gained a family. Linda seemed warm then, all smiles and homemade pies, but cracks formed fast. She'd criticize my cooking, my parenting, even the way I folded Ethan's clothes. Always with that syrupy tone that made you question your own sanity. "Oh, honey, I'm just helping," she'd say while her eyes screamed judgment. Tom, bless him, tried to mediate, but he was stuck between his mother's iron grip and my growing frustration. When his job as a structural engineer demanded a move to Colorado, leaving Linda behind in Ohio, I thought distance would dull her edge. I was wrong. Last month she started calling more, demanding video chats with Ethan. I didn't mind at first, grandma time, right? But then came the comments. "He looks thin, Sarah. Are you feeding him properly? Or he needs more structure." I'd have him in bed by 7. I bit my tongue, reminding myself she was just lonely. Then came the bombshell, dropped casually during a Sunday call. "I booked Ethan a ticket to Ohio. He'll stay with me for the summer." No discussion. No permission. Just Linda, rewriting my life like she always did. I laughed at first, thinking it was a bad joke. "Linda, you can't just take my son." Her response was ice. "I'm his grandmother. I have rights. You'll see what happens if you fight me." The line went dead and my world tilted. Rights? What rights? I spent that night Googling Grandparent Rights Ohio, my heart pounding as I scrolled through legal forums. Most said she had no case. Ethan was my son, not hers, but the threat lingered like smoke. Linda wasn't bluffing. She'd drag us to court, twist the truth, paint me as an unfit mother. I could already hear her in front of a judge, voice dripping with fake concern. Poor Ethan deserves better. The next morning I called Tom at work. He was in a meeting, but I didn't care. "Your mother's trying to kidnap our son," I said, voice shaking. He sighed, that heavy sound he made when he didn't want to deal with her. "She's just being dramatic, Sarah. She won't do it." But I knew better. Linda didn't make empty threats. By noon she'd texted me a flight itinerary, Ethan's name, one way to Ohio, leaving in 10 days. My blood ran cold. She'd even listed herself as his guardian for the trip. I pictured my little boy, confused and scared, on a plane with a woman who'd never once asked what he wanted. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I paced, plotting. I wasn't just fighting for Ethan. I was fighting for my right to be his mother. Linda wanted a battle? She'd get one. But I had to be smart. She'd use any outburst against me, spin it into hysterical mother, for her imaginary courtroom drama. So I started gathering evidence. I saved every text, every voicemail, every email where she'd overstepped. There was the time she'd joked about adopting Ethan if I couldn't handle him. The passive-aggressive birthday card to Ethan with a note that read, "Grandma will always take care of you." I even found an old email where she'd told Tom I was too soft to raise a boy properly. It wasn't just a pattern, it was a campaign. By day 3 I had a plan. First, I called my lawyer, Rachel, a pitbull in a pantsuit who'd helped a friend through a custody battle. She listened, her pen tapping as I spilled everything. "Sarah, she's got no legal standing," Rachel said. "Grandparents' rights in Ohio are narrow only if the parents are unfit or divorced, and you're neither. But we need to shut this down fast." She advised a cease and desist letter, formal and sharp, to scare Linda off before she escalated. I agreed, but my gut said it wouldn't be enough. Linda thrived on control, not reason. Next, I talked to Ethan's pediatrician, Dr. Hayes, who'd known him since he was born. I needed documentation that Ethan was thriving, proof I was a good mother. Dr. Hayes didn't hesitate. Ethan's healthy, happy, and hitting every milestone. I'll write you a letter, Sarah. No one's taking that boy from you. His words were a lifeline, but the fear still gnawed. What if Linda lied? What if she claimed neglect? I started keeping a journal, noting every moment with Ethan, every bedtime story, every scraped knee I bandaged, every laugh we shared. If she wanted to play dirty, I'd be ready. Tom, to his credit, stepped up. He called Linda that evening, his voice firm for once. Mom, you're not taking Ethan anywhere. Drop this or we're done. I heard her through the phone, shrill and unyielding. You're letting that woman control you, Tom. I'm saving my grandson. Saving him? From what? His own mother. I wanted to scream, but I stayed quiet, letting Tom handle it. He hung up, face pale. She's talking about lawyers, he said. My stomach dropped, but I wasn't surprised. Linda was doubling down. The cease and desist went out the next day, overnight to Linda's Ohio address. Rachel drafted it like a weapon. Any attempt to remove Ethan without parental consent is unlawful and will be met with legal action. I imagined Linda's face as she read it, her smugness cracking. But her response came faster than I expected. A voicemail. Her voice dripping venom. You think a piece of paper scares me? I'll see you in court, Sarah. Ethan deserves better than you. I saved it, my hands shaking. She wasn't backing down. That night, I sat with Ethan as he colored, his tiny tongue poking out as he drew a lopsided dinosaur. Mommy, why's Grandma mad? He asked, not looking up. My heart broke. He'd overheard us, caught the tension in my voice. I knelt beside him, forcing a smile. Grandma just misses you, buddy. But you're staying right here with me and Daddy. Okay? He nodded, but his eyes held a flicker of worry. I hugged him tight, vowing Linda would never touch him. The next week was a blur of preparation. Rachel dug into Linda's history, uncovering a gold mine. 2 old restraining orders from neighbors in Ohio, filed years ago over harassing behavior. Linda had a temper, a record of overstepping boundaries. It wasn't much, but it painted a picture. I also reached out to Ethan's preschool teacher, Mrs. Carter, who wrote a glowing letter about his progress and my involvement, weekly volunteering, never missing a parent-teacher meeting. Every piece of evidence felt like armor, but I still felt exposed. Linda's threat loomed like a storm cloud. Then 2 days before the flight, she called again. I let it go to voicemail, bracing myself. Sarah, I'm giving you one last chance. Let Ethan come, or I'm filing for custody. I've got proof, your unfit pictures, witnesses, everything. My blood ran cold. Pictures? Witnesses? Was she bluffing, or had she been watching us? I called Rachel immediately, who told me to stay calm. She's trying to rattle you. If she had real evidence, she'd have filed already. But the doubt crept in. I started checking windows at night, locking doors twice, paranoid she'd hired someone to spy. Tom and I decided to confront her in person. We booked flights to Ohio, Tom and Ethan. If Linda wanted a fight, we'd bring it to her doorstep. Rachel prepped us. No yelling, no accusations, just facts. Show her you're united, she said. Bullies like her crumble when they can't divide. I wasn't so sure, but I clung to the hope. Ethan, sensing the trip's weight, clung to his stuffed dinosaur, asking if Grandma would be nice. I lied and said yes. We landed in Ohio on a gray, humid morning, the air thick with tension. Linda's house was exactly as I remembered. Pristine, cold, like a museum of her ego. She opened the door, all smiles for Ethan, ignoring me and Tom. There's my boy, she cooed, reaching for him. I stepped between them, my voice steady. We need to talk, Linda. Now. Her smile faltered, but she waved us in, her eyes narrowing. Inside, the battle began. Linda sat, arms crossed, launching into her spiel. Ethan's better off with me. I've got a big house, a good school nearby, stability. She spat the last word like an accusation, implying I couldn't provide it. I kept my cool, laying out Rachel's letter, the pediatrician's note, the preschool testimonials. Ethan's thriving, Linda. You don't get to decide his life. Tom backed me up, his voice firm. Mom, this stops now. You're not taking our son. Linda's face twisted, her voice rising. You're brainwashing him against me. I'll prove it in court. That's when I played the voicemail, her own words echoing in the room. Ethan deserves better than you. Her eyes widened, caught. For the first time she looked small-cornered. But she wasn't done. I have pictures, she hissed. Ethan looking neglected, your house a mess. I laughed, cold and sharp. Show me. She fumbled, pulling out blurry photos of Ethan playing in mud, normal kid stuff she twisted into evidence. It was pathetic. Rachel had prepped us for this. I handed Linda a folder. Copies of her restraining orders, her threatening texts, the cease and desist. You have no case, I said. Keep pushing and we'll file for harassment. Tom stepped forward, his voice low. Mom, if you ever want to see Ethan again, you'll stop. The room went silent. Linda's bravado cracked, her eyes darting between us. For once she had no comeback. We left Ohio the next day. Ethan asleep in my arms on the plane. Linda hadn't apologized, she never would, but she canceled the flight to Ohio. Rachel called it a win, but it felt hollow. I protected my son, but at what cost? Linda's shadow lingered. A reminder that family could wound deeper than strangers. Back home, I tucked Ethan into bed, his dinosaur clutched tight. Mommy, are we safe now? He asked. I kissed his forehead, my heart full. Always, buddy. Always. The flight back to Colorado was quiet, save for Ethan's soft snores against my shoulder. His little hand gripped his stuffed dinosaur, and I stared out the plane window, the clouds blurring as my mind replayed the showdown with Linda. We'd won, or so it seemed, but victory felt fragile, like a cracked glass waiting to shatter. Linda's silence after we left her house wasn't surrender, it was a pause, a predator circling before the next strike. I knew her too well. She'd never let go of Ethan, not without a fight that could scar us all. Back home, I tried to settle into routine. Ethan went back to preschool, his laughter filling the house as he showed me his latest finger painting masterpiece, a green blob he swore was a dragon. Tom buried himself in work, avoiding the topic of his mother, but I could see the guilt in his eyes. He felt responsible, torn between the woman who raised him and the family he'd built. I didn't push him. I was too busy fortifying my defenses. Rachel, my lawyer, kept tabs on Linda, warning me to stay vigilant. She's not done, Rachel said over coffee one morning. People like her don't quit, they escalate. She was right. A week later, a thick envelope arrived, postmarked Ohio. My stomach churned as I tore it open. Legal documents, a petition for grandparent visitation rights. Linda had filed, claiming I was unstable and denying Ethan a meaningful relationship with his grandmother. Attached were affidavits from 2 of her church friends, swearing I was neglectful, citing Ethan's muddy clothes from those blurry photos. It was flimsy, laughable even, but the audacity burned. She'd gone from threats to action, dragging us into the legal arena she thought she could control. I called Rachel immediately, my voice shaking with rage. She's lying, Rachel. She's making it up. Rachel stayed calm, her voice a steady anchor. This is what she wants, your panic. We've got this, Sarah. Her case is weak, and we have evidence. She outlined our response. Counter her claims with Ethan's medical records, teacher testimonials, and Linda's own history of harassment. But the process would take months, maybe years, and the thought of fighting in court while Linda spun her narrative made me sick. Ethan deserved better than being a pawn in her game. I sat Tom down that night, The document spread across our kitchen table like a battlefield. "We need to end this," I said. "Not just for now, for good." He nodded, his jaw tight. "What do you want to do?" he asked. I took a deep breath. We cut her off. Completely. No calls, no visits, nothing until she drops this. It was harsh, but Linda had crossed a line. Tom hesitated, his loyalty to his mother warring with his love for us. Finally, he agreed. "I'll tell her," he said. "But she won't take it well." He was right. Tom's call to Linda was a disaster. I heard her screaming through the phone, accusing me of poisoning him against her, of stealing her grandson. "You'll regret this," she spat before hanging up. The next day she emailed Ethan's preschool, posing as me, requesting his records. Thank God Mrs. Carter, his teacher, called me to confirm. "I knew it wasn't you," she said. "The email was off pushy, not your style." I added the email to my growing file, another piece of Linda's overreach to use against her. But Linda's tactics weren't just legal. She started a smear campaign, subtle at first. She posted on social media vague, tearful rants about losing my grandson to a cruel mother. Her church friends shared them, painting me as a monster. A few even messaged me directly, calling me selfish, ungodly. I didn't respond, but each word stung. I wasn't just fighting for Ethan now. I was fighting for my reputation, my peace. I deleted my social media accounts, shielding myself from the noise, but the damage was done. People I barely knew, old neighbors, distant cousins, started texting Tom, asking if I was okay. Linda was turning our community against us. I leaned on my support system. My best friend Claire became my rock, bringing wine and sarcasm to late-night venting sessions. "She's unhinged," Claire said, scrolling through Linda's posts. "But she's also desperate." "You're winning, Sarah." I didn't feel like I was winning. I felt like a soldier in a war I never signed up for. But Claire's words stuck with me. Desperate people make mistakes, and Linda was unraveling. Her biggest mistake came a month later. Rachel got a tip from a colleague in Ohio. Linda had tried to access Ethan's medical records, claiming to be his legal guardian. It was a bold, illegal move, and the hospital flagged it. Rachel pounced, filing a motion to dismiss Linda's petition and adding a harassment charge. "This is gold," Rachel said, grinning. "She's digging her own grave." The hospital provided a statement confirming Linda's attempt, and we paired it with her fake email to the preschool. The evidence was mounting, but I still felt uneasy. Linda wasn't the type to go quietly. The court date loomed, set for 3 months out. Rachel prepped me relentlessly, role-playing cross-examinations until I could recite my defense in my sleep. I was ready to face Linda, but the thought of Ethan being dragged into this, maybe even testifying, kept me up at night. He was starting to ask questions. Why doesn't Grandma call anymore? Or did I do something wrong? I shielded him as best I could, spinning stories about Grandma being busy, but his little heart sensed the truth. I hated Linda for that most of all, for making my son doubt himself. Then, 2 weeks before the hearing, Linda upped the ante. She showed up in Colorado. I was picking Ethan up from preschool when I saw her car in the parking lot, that gaudy red sedan she'd driven for years. My heart stopped. She stepped out, all smiles, as if she hadn't spent months trying to dismantle my life. "Sarah, let's talk," she said, her voice syrupy. Ethan froze, clutching my hand. "Mommy," he whispered. I knelt, kissing his forehead. "Go wait with Mrs. Carter, buddy. I'll be right there." He obeyed, but his eyes lingered on Linda, wary and confused. I faced her, my voice low. "You have no business here. Leave." She didn't budge. "I just want to see my grandson, Sarah. You're tearing this family apart." The gall of her words lit a fire in me. "You're the one who filed for custody," I snapped. "You threatened to take him. You don't get to play victim." Her smile faded, replaced by that cold, calculating stare. "I'll win, Sarah. Courts favor grandparents." I laughed bitter and loud. Not when you've broken the law, Linda. I walked away, calling Rachel as I got Ethan into the car. She advised a restraining order, and we filed it that afternoon. The restraining order was a turning point. Linda couldn't contact us directly anymore. And her lawyer, a sleazy guy who looked like he charged by the lie, started backpedaling. Rachel smelled blood. They're scared, she said. Her case is crumbling, and the restraining order makes her look unstable. We pushed forward, adding the preschool and hospital incidents to our filings. Linda's lawyer tried to negotiate, offering to drop the petition if we'd allow supervised visits. I refused. She'd lost any claim to trust. The hearing was anticlimactic, almost surreal. Linda sat across the courtroom, her face a mask of fake tears. Her lawyer spun a tale of a devoted grandmother denied her rights, but Rachel dismantled it. She presented the voicemails, the texts, the hospital and preschool incidents, the restraining orders from Ohio. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with sharp eyes, barely let Linda's lawyer finish. Mrs. Thompson, she said, addressing Linda directly, your actions show a pattern of harassment and disregard for parental rights. This court finds no basis for your petition. The gavel fell and it was over. Linda's case was dismissed, with a warning to respect the restraining order or face contempt charges. I should have felt triumphant, but all I felt was relief, bone deep and heavy. Tom squeezed my hand, his eyes wet. It's done, he whispered. But it wasn't, not really. Linda's shadow would always linger, a reminder of how fragile family could be. We walked out of the courthouse, Ethan between us, his dinosaur tucked under his arm. Can we get ice cream? He asked, oblivious to the war we just won. I laughed, the sound raw and real. Yeah, buddy. Let's get ice cream. Months later, life settled. Linda stayed silent, bound by the restraining order. Tom started therapy, working through the guilt of cutting off his mother. I rebuilt my trust in him brick by brick, grateful he'd chosen us. Ethan thrived, his laughter louder, his questions about grandma fading. But I never forgot the fight. It taught me the strength of a mother's love, the power of standing firm, and the cost of toxic family ties. What do you think? Was I right to cut Linda off completely, or should I have left room for redemption? Is justice served when family fractures, or does it just deepen the wounds? Share your thoughts. Would you handle a battle like this, where love and control collide?